G'day viewers, it's me again, and I'm doing yet another video on the construction of the Eric Street Cycleway or shared path in Cottesloe. But before we get into watching the video and having a look at a latest article in the paper, I just want to cover why I'm bothering to do these. Now, what I'm trying to do is to learn some lessons from how they construct cycleways and shared paths in WA that we can apply in New South Wales. So the first thing I'm doing obviously is looking at the construction techniques they're using. And you'll see, they dig a trench, they put down some sort of limestoney type stuff, they crush it, they roll it, they wet it, and then they put a asphalt layer over the top. It's reasonably quick to construct, it's smooth and nice to ride on, it looks pretty good, and yet we seem to see very little of that being used in New South Wales. And I guess the question is why? Well, maybe the second point answers that, the not invented here type example. Then, we often get a lot of resistance, I think, from councils in New South Wales because they don't, because there's not a lot of shared paths and cycle infrastructure in New South Wales, they don't have examples to look at and learn from and go, oh, look, there's a path over there we can go and look at, and yeah, it's not the end of the world building that, and this is how it can be done. In this case, we can either put a whole lot of councillors and, traffic engineers on a plane and fly them over to Perth for a week and get them to, hop on a bus and get taken around, or hop on bikes and ride around, or we can shoot a bunch of video and hopefully they'll spend a few minutes looking at it from their desks and go, oh, this actually can be done, and oh, this is how they do it, and yeah, we could possibly do that here without too many problems. Next thing, how long does it actually take to build one of these things? I mean, I've been shooting these videos for a couple of months now, and the construction is still ongoing, and who knows when it's actually going to finish. And by shooting these videos and looking at the progress each week, we can get an idea of why each stage takes so long, the work that's involved, and so get rid of these expectations that it's a really quick job and it takes no time at all. It actually does take a considerable amount of time because there is a lot of work. Now, the next one, does the rhetoric match the reality? And what I'm getting at here is there's been a lot of opposition in the local paper to the construction of this cycleway, and that's nothing new. The local paper always has opposition to projects like this. And residents have come out with, lots and lots of reasons for why this is going to be a terrible thing, a colossal failure, the worst thing ever. So once it's actually completed, I want to be able to go back and look at all that rhetoric that they put in the paper, and then have a look at the finished product and go, is there any correlation between the two here? Did any of the bad things that they claimed were going to happen actually come true? And if so, why did they come true? And is that actually a bad thing or not? And can we learn something from that for future projects? And this leads on to the next one, is does the path when it's finished work for all the users? Now, obviously it's a shared path, so with our hierarchy of users, you've got pedestrians at the top, and by pedestrians I include people walking, running, pushing prams, families with kids walking down to the beach and that kind of stuff. Then obviously you've got your cyclists, your skateboarders, your e-scooters, because remember e-scooters are legal in WA, so yes, e-scooter users can use the path. Those silly uniball electric things, e-bikes, tricycles, wheelchairs, all those kinds of things. Gophers even, elderly people getting around in those mobility scooters. Shared path is fine for all of those users, doesn't work for them. And does it work for that wide age group of 8 to 80? Can young kids use the path successfully as well as the elderly? And then, of course, you've got to consider the residents. Does it work for them as well? Does it really impact on their lifestyle and all that kind of stuff, or not? So, you've got to look at it from everyone's perspective, and I guess you'd also have to look at it from people that are driving down to the beach and want to find somewhere to park. What impact has it had on them as well? Now let's just move on to the latest article in the paper, and we can see here with the loss of some parking during the construction, one resident has said it's going to wreck the Sculpture by the Sea festival. I think that's just the most ridiculous statement I've heard, but that's the kind of rhetoric that we're hearing. Next thing is, residents losing access to their driveways for a couple of weeks, obviously when they rip up the path that goes across the front. The question is, Is it only 2 weeks, or do construction difficulties and delays lead to that being 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and really annoying the residents, because that would be frustrating. God, what else? Just the general kind of moaning and complaining that we get. There's always something new that comes up every week, but at least that they're not this week just kept talking about it destroying the fabric of the suburb, which is something we've certainly heard before. Oh, you might have noticed one of the residents said, people were using it as a BMX track. I hope they didn't mistake me for some little kid racing around on a BMX track. So the first bit is just going to be some handheld footage that I shot of various sections, and we can see, they've managed to wiggle this section of path around the trees. Along here, they've just recently closed off this section of car park, and you see they've had the digger in to tear up a lot of concrete slabs, which it's about a week between when I shot this and when I'm actually doing this narration, so that might all be gone by now. There's a driveway that's actually open, and you can see, because they've rolled that limestoney stuff down hard enough that the residents can drive in and out of there. But that next section, they haven't laid down was it limestone, sandstone, whatever it is, this yellow crumbly stuff. That's yet to go down there, and I think the water truck is there so that they can wet it, and then they get the roller out and give it a good squish, and it becomes quite firm. Now, this is a section where they're going to lose some parking, and obviously they've blocked off that area there. And the loss of that parking there with the machinery is obviously going to lead to sculpture by the sea completely failing, because 6 people can't park their cars there. So that's just a quick look at the machinery and the digging up they're doing. You can see the path here. Okay, let's look at those cyclists going past. They've curved it in a bit so it doesn't go across the edge of this side street. It goes in a bit, so you kind of get to the end, you turn, you hang left, then you hang right. It's kind of a bit of an S-bend. You can see there, that's the rocky, crumbly stuff I was talking about. It's a mix of kind of, well, almost yellow sand with lumps of, sandstone, I guess. You could probably, if you rub that together between your fingers, you could. It's soft. It's not chalk, but it's certainly not hard rock. That's for sure. It rolls down quite nicely. So you can see along here, these driveways are blocked off still, and I guess that's what they're saying about residents losing access to their driveways for 2 weeks while they sort this out. Now here, I was interested to see there's a speed cushion there, and I don't know if that's a new speed cushion or if it's always been there. I've got no clue, but obviously that's slowing down drivers coming into this roundabout where cyclists are going to be crossing from back and forth in front of them. Now this is interesting. That Mini used to always be parked where that car is parked on the shared path, although they've now been parking it up there on that slab. And that resident, was complaining about that. You can see there was a resident driving into their driveway, so obviously that's open. That kind of peloton is probably not going to be using the shared path. They'll stick to the road because they're speedy and confident and all the rest of it. But let's just ride up and down and have a look. And we can see, sure, there's cones out, but, that driveway is blocked off, but some of them are open. We can see here, it's nice and wide through here. All they've done is they've dug up the old concrete path through there, and they're laying down the new shared path where the old path used to be. But along here, they've widened it as we go around the corner here, and obviously there's a fence there. I can't ride off where I should ride off. I had to cut the corner. But I just rode up and down a number of these sections where I could, just to get a feel for what are the curves like. Is it a nice free-flowing path? Are the sight lines good? And unfortunately, I do these usually early in the morning on a weekend where there's not much traffic, and so you can see the sunlight absolutely blows it out, because it's an east-west facing path. So when I'm riding east, the camera is just wrecked, and when you also go into shade, it also messes with it. So sorry about the bad photography, but hey, I'm not going out there at midday on a Tuesday to film this, particularly when there's actually workers here working on this. I'm doing this now because it's a weekend and they're having the weekend off. So this section, you can see obviously it's been rolled. If it hadn't been rolled, I wouldn't be riding on it. but it's firm enough to support vehicles at that stage, so it can certainly handle a mountain bike with fat tyres. There you can see, they've finished the concreting with the curbs. They've got the black asphalt down. I still, it says they're going to put a red. The surface is going to be red concrete, but I see no signs whatsoever of that they're actually going to put a concrete layer on top of this tarmac layer. I may be wrong. Maybe they will come back and put, a couple of centimetres of red concrete over the top. Who knows? I guess if they're going to do that, they want to finish the entire thing from go to woe, so they can just lay the concrete down in one go, which I guess would kind of make sense. Here, just checking out the roundabout from the driver's perspective, and yeah, you can either still take the lane, or if you're on a mountain bike like I am, you can duck around these barriers. It does require going onto the verge to get around some of them, which might upset a few people. I don't know, but again, you can see the driveways through here where they've asphalted it are generally open, and the residents can get in and out. So yeah, there would have been a period of inconvenience, certainly when the driveways are blocked, but it's not too long. So again, we can see here the path curves around to the left, it indents us in, so we're not crossing, I guess, across what you call the throat of the intersection. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when you get drivers turning into that side street, whether they're looking for cyclists going across the side street, and what happens there. Are they going to put a treatment there to make it obvious that there's cyclists crossing? Are they going to slow down the drivers so they don't come screaming around the corner and clean people up? I guess we shall see. Now this section here, filmed on the 17th of February, it was still very much a work in progress. They'd rolled some of these sections of the yellow, I'm going to call it yellow sand, and you can see that some driveways open. I did in fact see another resident ride in, but I can only find the footage for one resident riding in. I know I've seen two of them doing it. But I think there's a problem with, there's what your eyeballs can see, and then there's the field of view of the camera. And those two are different. So yeah, there's the beach in front of us. That's what this is all about, riding down there and getting to the beach. And one day they might in fact clean up that section of road along the beach and make it a much more pedestrian and cycle friendly space, because at the moment it's a shocker. So there's our driver going into their driveway. They don't need to do a great big four-wheel drive to do that. You could have done that in a Barina. Yeah, I guess one last look at this this yellow stuff, and you can see here they haven't quite rolled it going around the corner, but mountain bike, no problems. So yeah, I hope that gives you an idea of how the construction is progressing, and I guess an idea of the techniques they're using to build this thing. And to me, riding along it in this unfinished state, it's pretty good. The ramps that I've rode up and down were really nice. I don't see a problem with it bending in to go across these cross streets. They've cut those islands out so they're wider, so it's easy to get across the road. It's probably another couple of months of work before it's finished, and and it's really only at that point that we can say whether it's going to work or not. But until next time.